Okay, this is for angles of elevation and depression. Say angles of elevation and depression. And depression. The main thing to remember about angles of elevation, angle of elevation is always from a horizontal line and then looking up. Okay? Angle of elevation, it is always from a horizontal. So this would be considered, the angle of elevation. It's always from a horizontal line looking up. Okay? Angle of depression is always from a horizontal line and then down. Okay, so this would be like the angle of depression. Okay, so an angle of elevation in here might be, if I'm standing here, okay, and it would be like from a horizontal, and if I'm looking up to where the wall intersects the ceiling, that would be like an angle of elevation. What's that angle? If I'm looking here and I'm looking from a horizontal and look down to where the floor intersects that, okay, that's an angle of depression. Okay. The one thing that you should know from geometry is if you have two parallel lines, try to draw them as close to parallel as you can. And if you cut them with a transversal, okay, this angle is equal to this angle. Why? What kind of angles are they? Alternate interior angles. This one would be like an angle of depression. This would be like an angle of depression because it's from a horizontal down. And when you have two parallel lines cut by a transversal, alternate interior angles are equal, which means the angle of elevation equals the angle of depression. Okay? This would be like the angle of elevation because it's from a horizontal line looking up, and this one would be horizontal line down. So those two angles would be equal to each other. Okay, and the only way that's true is if these two lines are parallel. So you need to put the marks that say they are parallel to each other. Okay, so you're still going to be using in this. They will give you something like the angle of elevation to the top of something. Okay, it's going to be this angle. Say that's angle A. And it's still going to be using a right triangle. You're still going to be using opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. So you're still going to be using sine, cosine, tangent, okay, to solve it. Okay, I'm going to go through two examples. Okay, a safety regulation. Whoops, spell it right. Hang on, let's spell that right. A safety regulation states that the maximum. The safety regulation states that the maximum angle of elevation for a rescue ladder the safety regulation states that the maximum angle of elevation for a rescue ladder is 72 degrees. Okay, if the fire department's longest ladder is 110 feet, what is, if the fire department's longest ladder is 110 feet, what is the maximum safe rescue height to the nearest 100th. Okay. Picture-wise, draw a right triangle. Okay. They're giving you the angle of elevation. Remember, the angle of elevation is it's never going to be like this angle. Angle of elevation and angle of depression will never ever be from a vertical. It'll always be from a horizontal line up for an angle of elevation. Okay, so they're giving you the angle. If the fire department's longest ladder is 110 feet, okay, so they're telling you this is 110 feet. What they want to know is, what's this? What's the maximum height? In terms of, you always want to look at that angle and say, in terms of that angle, what side is that? Opposite or adjacent? Opposite. And this? Hypotenuse. What trig function? Sine. Now, when you write that out, sine of 72 equals, I still want you to write opposite over hypotenuse. The more you write those, the better that is for getting all those memorized. And then sub in. Sine of 72 equals, the opposite would be x. The hypotenuse is 110. Okay, now in your calculators, figure the sine of 72. Okay, you still want to make sure you're in degree mode. So sine of 72. Okay, and you should have, in trig, it's normally right the 4 decimal places down, and then equals x over 110. Now you want to solve for x. It's x divided by 110. What's the inverse of division? Multiply. So if we multiply this, you don't actually have to write this down because you're going to do it on the calculator. So x equals, you're going to multiply what's already on the calculator times 110. Okay. And I get 104.6162, and they want it to the nearest hundredth. So you look at the thousandth. You don't start all the way over at the right. You start at the decimal right next to it. That's 5 or greater, so we're going to round it up. 104.62, and that would be in feet. Okay, and that's your final answer. So you're still doing, on this assignment, you're still doing trig functions. Okay. Any questions on that one? Okay, let's go through one more example. An aerial photographer an aerial photographer who photographs farm properties for a real estate company. Okay, an aerial photographer who photographs farm properties for a real estate company has determined that the best photo is taken at a height of 475 feet. 475 feet. And a distance of 850 feet from the farmhouse. What is the angle of depression Okay, what is the angle of depression from the plane to the house? Okay. Okay, picture. There's my little plane. Okay. It's the best I can do. Okay. Here's your plane. Should actually touch that. Might make it a little bit bigger. Okay. Okay. 475 feet is the height. 850 feet, and that's actually the distance on the ground. Okay, here's your right angle. Okay, now they want to know angle of depression. Here's the angle they're looking for. It's always from a horizontal down. So, okay, this is the angle of depression. But if you look at this, this line is parallel to this line cut by a transversal. Now, this is actually on the ground. Go ahead and put that in there. When you measure in the distance, it's distance on the ground. Okay. Okay, so this angle is the angle of depression. But if you have this line parallel to this line cut by a transversal, then this line, this angle is equal to this angle. Yep. Okay, so in terms of this angle, okay, let's say this is angle X. Opposite, adjacent, what trig function? Tangent. So tangent of angle X is, and write it down, opposite over adjacent. Remember our saying to remember all three of those? Some old hags can't always hide their old age, if that helps you remember all three. So we have tangent of X, we don't know the angle. The opposite angle X is 475. Adjacent to that angle X is 850. Okay, so now in your calculators, take and divide 475 divided by 850. Yep. So you have tangent of X equals 0.5588. Now, don't type that in. Okay, what you want to do, you know the value. Now you want to do the angle. So it's inverse tangent. So second function tangent, inverse tangent, and you want to do second function answer. That way you don't round it until the final answer. Okay, so I get X equals 29.1975. They want it. Ooh, it didn't say. Let's go to the nearest hundredth. Let's go nearest. Put that on the problem too. Since the other one was nearest hundredth, let's go this one nearest hundredth. So X at equal. Okay, this is going to throw that up. 29.20. Do I need that 0? Yes. Okay, because they want 2 decimal places. Okay. Okay, that should be enough.